Well, I think for the last decades, really for hundreds of years, when we've thought about transatlantic relations, we've thought mainly about relations across the North Atlantic. History was made in that space. And I think we're now coming to a more balanced understanding of actors in the Atlantic to include the South as well as the North. It's not just a question of the Brussels-Washington axis, but also what's happening in Brazil, what's happening in Morocco, and how you include this wider set of countries in what we traditionally call transatlantic relations. I think that's a core question for us. Well, I think it's a question of understanding new actors and their stakes in the Atlantic. Morocco, of course, is an old actor in the Atlantic. Both the United States and Morocco are Atlantic societies. But we also need to understand what China is doing in the Atlantic. We need to understand what the emergence of Brazil will mean, or what Mexico will do and how Atlantic it will be. So there's a question about countries, but there's also a question about issues. And I think there are certain issues that are important for us to focus on, and GMF and OCP together are working on this. So let me mention a couple. One would be energy, where very rapidly the Atlantic Basin is becoming a principal source of energy for world supply. Food security is another, where Morocco is a big actor, but Brazil is a big actor, and others. So is the United States. Mobility, human mobility. People are moving around a lot more than they used to, whether it's for business or whether it's economic or political refugees. So we need to think about that piece of it as well. And there are some security issues, too, that we need to think about that are linking the security fate of the Maghreb, of Africa, of Europe, and indeed across the Atlantic together in a much more direct way than we're used to in the past. So lots of different issues we need to think through in this new wider Atlantic agenda. I think we have the same stake in making sure that this is a success. Actually, this debate about the role of the South in transatlantic relations is a fairly new one, both for the United States and for Europe. We're not used to thinking about it in quite that way. We have a series of bilateral relationships and regional relationships, but this is really a kind of redefinition of transatlantic relations in an important way, and I think people are beginning to think about it very, very seriously. So what is exciting about this is that we don't come to it with too many predetermined ideas. That the United States and Europe can think together about how we work with Morocco and others on this list of issues, which is very important, whether it's energy or human mobility, security, other things.
Good to be with you. Thank you.
Do you have any information or things to develop?
Well, just perhaps to mention that, now just to give a concrete example of something that we should be looking at, there are negotiations underway for a new US-European trade agreement. We don't know where that's going to go exactly, but there's a lot of enthusiasm about it on both sides of the Atlantic. What will it mean for those outside the United States and the European Union? What will it mean for Mexico? What will it mean for Morocco, Brazil, Turkey even? So taking a slightly wider view of these core transatlantic debates is something that I think can be useful for all of us.